The biggest card of the year goes down this Saturday. International Fight Week is always a big deal, and this year's no exception. I've actually been lucky enough to be in Vegas for this annual event a few times in the past, and it does not disappoint. There are a lot of very cool events going on throughout the entire week, including pool parties, seminars, the Fan Expo, Hall of Fame inductions, and so on. If you're a hardcore MMA fan, it's the time to get to Vegas to take in an event. The better part of the entire roster descends upon the desert this time of year, and it makes for an interesting time to be there. You're very likely to cross paths with a lot of the biggest names this sport has to offer in the most random of ways, whether it be sharing an elevator, eating at the same restaurant, or sitting at the same blackjack table. It makes for an amazing experience for anyone who loves this sport. Throughout the entire week, there's a buzz in the air of anticipation for the big event that's looming. The weekend is always capped off with a stacked card, and UFC 226 most certainly fits the bill of being stacked. There are a lot of amazing bouts on this card, many of which could headline a pay-per-view or a fight night event in itself. It's a card that's actually been a long time coming, and I believe as it draws near, us MMA fans are going to really start to feel an excitement that we haven't felt in quite some time. There are a lot of fights I'd love to delve into. If you watched last week's episode I did, you would have saw me fan out over Gokhan Saki. That fight alone has me excited for this weekend, and that merely kicks off the main card. There's so much to say about Pettis versus Chiesa. A fight that was supposed to go down a long time ago has finally come to fruition, and I think that's going to be an exciting affair. And Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis? Forget it. You can never say anything for certain when it comes to this sport, but I really don't see how that fight isn't fireworks. Two monster heavyweights who are primarily known for their knockout power colliding equals one short fight with on the edge of your seat action for as long as it lasts, whether it's 12 minutes or 12 seconds. Max Holloway versus Brian Ortega is a fight that has two of the most talented young fighters in this featherweight division has to offer, and they're facing off each other in their primes, which is something that's a lot more rare than most would think. Holloway has been on an absolute tear and has really made a name for himself these past few performances. He was always a force, but he's now starting to really get a lot of credit for how good he is, and that's made an already extremely confident Holloway even more confident. Again, which makes for an exciting outing for whoever the hell the Hawaiian steps in there with. Brian Ortega has a lot going for him. He's coming off of one of the greatest finishes in recent memory over an absolute legend of Frankie Edgar. Has finished 6 of his last fights and earned a performance of the night 3 times of those 6. To say his confidence is at an all-time high would be putting it mildly. This co-main event is one that has a lot of hardcores really waiting in anticipation. That's quite the lineup to set the table for the main event for when Daniel Cormier moves back up the heavyweight to take on the heavyweight champion, Stipe Miocic, in an attempt to become only the second ever dual champion in the UFC. I need to get this out of the way real quick. I heard a lot of people referring to this fight as a super fight. It's an incredible bout, one I frankly would not miss no matter what the hell happens in life. You could not keep me away from watching this fight go down live. It's a fight that the MMA world is super hyped on, but it is not a super fight. Unless your name is Brock Lesnar, John Jones, George St. Pierre, Conor McGregor, Nick Diaz, and if it were 2009, Anderson Silva, it's not a super fight. In fact, in order for it to be a super fight, you need 2 names for those of that list competing against each other. Otherwise, it's a misuse of the term. But all that aside, Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic is going to really be something. I find that since Conor McGregor made the 2 division title holding ways the new thing to do, there's been way too much talk from champions about doing this sort of thing. But Daniel Cormier is deserving of this opportunity. He has had an outstanding career, and given the circumstances, the fight against Stipe actually makes a lot of sense. Miocic is the first UFC heavyweight champion to defend the title more than twice, and he's going to be in tough against the Olympic wrestler Daniel Cormier. But if you ask me, as amazing as DC is, Stipe has got the skills and the grit and the size to overcome the light heavyweight champion. I think DC will be able to get Stipe down, but I'm not sure how long he's going to be able to keep him there. And I'm also not sure how often he's going to be able to continuously get the takedown. Size doesn't always matter, and it's not always a factor, but in this case, I think it is. As powerful as DC's strikes are, I don't know if it'll be enough to topple Stipe, whereas I actually think the heavyweight champion has a good chance at stopping DC via strikes. But who the hell knows? This sport's unpredictability is specifically what makes it so enticing to watch. So enjoy the build up for this one, folks. Watch all the embeddeds, watch the weigh-ins live, and get ready to hunker down this Saturday night, because shit is going to go down, and I expect there's going to be no shortage of things to discuss next week.